Not him. Grice will try to hang on around the outside, but that's not on. There's no way.
Is that the real Alan Grice driving that yellow car?
That's Peter Williamson tucked in behind. What Alan Grice is probably conscious of is that the car's owned by Tony Cabbage, who is a panel beater and who reckons this car stands him at about $75,000. It's an ex-Roadways Group C car converted to Group A, so it's owned by a private individual with a lot of his own money in it. Grice really does have to treat it with kid gloves. Toyota Supra, Peter Williamson, 2.8 litres, but only about 230 horsepower. Doing extremely well there to be hanging on to Grice, and qualified very well too, I might say, to be third fastest with a 16.5.
Williamson has blown 2 clutches in his last 2 outings here at Oran Park and again at Amaroo in the first round of the endurance title. He's now spent $900 on a new clutch and hopes that will solve his problem today. Now he comes down the inside of Grice, locks up everything. Oh! And Grice is not giving way, and they'll do it into the next corner again.
And Grice will come out on top as he comes down into a right-hand corner now. You can see John Harvey and Brock both lurking in behind them.
Again, watch Williamson now, because he's got the line to the next corner.
I think Williamson's passed him here.
Yes, he's done it.
Very brave move there.
Agent getting close to Francevic and the Volvo. Let's have a look at that again.
Here's the passing manoeuvre of Williamson, locking up everything.
You notice here that Grice did leave him room on the inside, whereas when we come out of the corner, Williamson didn't really leave Grice enough room.
No, indeed. Williamson's front was washing out too, with the front end locked.
Yes, but I think that was a little bit rude, giving him not enough room to negotiate the corner.
Well, he lost his apex, so perhaps he was needing all he could get on the exit.
Desperate stuff for the start of an endurance race.
17.6 that lap for Dick Johnson. As we see now, Williamson, then from Brock, who's been in the pits. John Harvey just behind him, the 2 mobile holder dealer team Commodores.
Harvey, of course, co-driving today with David Parsons, and we'll hand over to him at about the 50-lap mark for this 100-lap event.
Similar cars, but different front brake calipers on Brock's car, where they keep trying to develop the car, trying to make it better. A bit worried about brake pad wear yesterday, and were consulting about what they should do with the pads on Brock's car. Bedded in some new ones this morning in the warm-up session with the air cooling ducts blocked off.
They use a very hard pad for these long distance races. It's called an 1103, and it's really like metal to metal, so the brake pressure is very high, and also the brakes tend to lock a lot easier than they do with the sprint race brakes in, and this could be why Jim Richards is having this early problem too.
Here's the race leader, Johnson, comes up and completes 7 laps.
Johnson looks neat and comfortable there with that lap time that he's doing, and I think that Richards is just quite content to keep him in sight and follow him, wear him down as the race goes on, if you like.
Richards, I think, now very concerned on looking after his tyres and starting to calculate, as is also his pit crew, the possibility at this sort of gap over 7 laps, and Gardner expected 20 seconds after 20 laps, whether it is starting to look like a no-stop race or whether they should be planning a stop. And that's the sort of thing they're thinking about. Look what Johnson's doing to his tyres as he powers out of that second gear corner down the bottom of the circuit.
Dick's using those tyres. They're quite a hard compound Avon tyre, and Dick hopes to go fair distance on those tyres and then change to a soft set to finish the race.
Interesting in Grice's car is that he's the only man in the field running on Yokohamas.
Doing a good job in third position in the Jag, which has been troublesome to him throughout the year.
Well, I think Williamson's doing a sterling job here, because it is a big car and he's chasing these quite nimble machines around a twisty circuit.
He was talking to some Castrol technicians earlier. He has enormous temperature built into the engine oil. He's got a 150 degree centigrade gauge on the thing. If he revs that car to 7,500 revs, the gauge goes way off the scale, and it's around 170, 180 degrees engine oil temperature. He's running on our synthetic. The people say that will do the job, but it's not making life any easier. But he says if he drops about 500 revs, he can get the temperature back onto the scale at around 150 degrees. at Bathurst, sharing the car with Peter Jansen.
Well, that's an interesting combination because I think Jansen will do quite a good job in that car.
Yeah, I think he'll love it. He'll brighten up the team, indeed. He'll keep them laughing. So we see Robbie Francevic, who at Bathurst will be joined by another two overseas drivers in a Volvo, Lindstrom and Brancatelli, who are leading the European Touring Car Championship, making around 14 drivers for Bathurst from Europe and another 13 from New Zealand, New Zealanders who aren't resident in Australia, unlike people like Jim Richards and so on. So about 27 drivers in all coming to Bathurst from overseas somewhere. Agent getting fairly sideways there as he pursues Franson.
This could be Peter Williamson's opportunity to nail him here because he was slow out of the corner.
Yep. Slow onto the straight. The 2.8 litre Supra tucked in behind the 3.5 litre BM. Twin cam in the Supra. 1,000 odd kg. Showed me the dyno sheets. Peter Williamson, 264 horsepower. He was the highest reading he got out of that car at 6,500 revs.
Williamson lost a little ground there by dint of having to go right round the outside.
And Brock's giving him a hurry up, even though he's 1 or 2 laps down.
I don't think that'll worry Brock.
Agent powers off the bridge and buries himself in the boot of Francevic's car.
The Volvo doesn't look terribly happy through that section of the circuit.
Well, with their engine problems yesterday, they didn't have that much time to develop the rest of the motor vehicle. This is the circuit which most suits the Volvo, strangely enough, of the circuits they've run in the touring car title.
Looking at Volvo in 4th place, Francevic driving, Bajan 5th, Peter Williamson 6th. Followed then by Brock a lap down. John Harvey then is 7th.
So many New Zealanders in this race, I think they might have to make it the New Zealand Grand Prix.
And look at Bajan, my goodness, with absolutely no room there underneath. Francevic had to drive his car over the curb, out into the grass, and didn't make the place that he wanted.
And Francevic's waved him through. Francevic has actually waved him through.
And Bajan's thanked him. Well, have a look at this one. And that doesn't make the front suspension very happy with the wheels locked, does it, Bob, when you hit a curve like that?
It certainly doesn't, but I think that he underestimated his braking there and just came into the corner too fast, and when he felt the wheel lock, instead of actually flat spotting the tyre, he took his foot off the brake and chose to drive across the corner, trying to save the tyre and possibly doing some damage. But it looks quite okay here, and I think he's scared Frankovic into submission.
Unlike the JPS team BMWs of Jim Richards and Longhurst and Co., which are Alpina BMWs, this is a Schnitzer developed car which in fact took 3rd at Spa last year.
And on lap 10, at 10% race distance, the leader of the Pepsi 250 is Dick Johnson from Jim Richards, with Gary Wilmington in 3rd place. Then comes Bajent and Peter Williamson. Williamson now tucked in behind Bajent, pulls out as he comes. Williamson has gone. He has tried to get inside Bajent, coming down at the end of the straight. He's rolled it. There doesn't look to be much damage, but he's getting out of the car. Well, and that was the gentlest of rolls.
Yes.
Well, Williamson was right on the limit here. He was hard under brakes, and Bajent obviously didn't realise that he was under there, and he's come across on his normal apex. Williamson tried to turn in, had a touch, and straight over. Harvey is just ducking around the back of him here. Brock has locked up his brakes, and that's Frankovic there behind.
And look at the strength of the roll bar in that car.
Well, that's safety, isn't it?
Lap 20, and Kent Bajent making another hard thrust towards the lead as he reins in the big V12 Jaguar of Gary Wilmington. Been hauling back valuable tenths of a second in the last few laps. As you can see, still the Holden dealer team Commodore lurking in behind, and around the tight section here, let's see how hard Bajan's prepared to work his car to try and grab third place. At the moment, the race being led by about 8 seconds by Dick Johnson from Jim Richards. In third place, Gary Wilmington. Fourth place, Bajan. Fifth place,
John Harvey.
Car number 7 is John Harvey. And then sixth behind him, number 21, is Frank Francevic. Over the Honda dogleg, car gets light there, and you can see how quickly he comes through the front, working its way, running him to the outside of the track. Now on the straight where Wilmington absolutely revels in the power of the Jaguar, gives it a big rev to over 7,000, stomps off down the straight, something around 240 kilometres an hour.